If I only had a brain. Hello. How you doing?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's
Awesome.
news? How's your morning?
Not bad. I just got to work, so
Ah. Oh, you're
yeah.
working. So you're just gonna.
Well, I don't start officially till after this class is done, so
Cool.
thought
Hey,
I'd come
Sarah.
in.
Hello, Sarah. How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Good. Welcome.
Thank you.
What brings you here this morning?
I just thought, like just I feel like a lot of the music theory that I accumulated through my life has sort of begun to drift away.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I had not done have work till 3 and I was like, can't hurt to
Yeah.
come and have a remember.
Hey, that's great. It's a little healthy dose, a healthy hit of music theory, just to see if we can
Yeah.
get it back into gear. Cool. Well, the Thursdays are a little bit more free. They're probably really the same as most people perceive them, but Mondays I try to keep them a bit more formulaic. It's like, okay, now let's talk about rhythm and foundations and stuff. And then Thursdays I like to kind of open it up a little bit. So if you have any questions as we go, feel free, just shout out or pop it in the chat, whatever. I don't mind. I thought we'd do a bit of a song analysis. And for those watching on Twitch and YouTube, I have an eye on the chat. So if you have any questions that come through, let me know. So far, it's only one person, and that one person is me logged onto my phone. So, good. Let's have a look. So we're going to look at I'm Not Afraid of Anything. Grab my easel. Okay. So we'll see where this goes. It could go anywhere. So, and again, we're looking at it from a music theory lens where we can sort of broaden the scope to a more dramatic lens. But what I'm interested in is in trying to find dramatic purpose and reasoning through music. So firstly, we want to analyze the time signature, which we touched on Monday. And the time signature is a combination of how many beats and how many beats of what within a bar. And I know I apologize if this is a little bit foundational, but I've got to start somewhere. A bar is encapsulated by a bar line. Okay, so we see the vertical lines, and between those exists a bar. And a bar is just a nice way of sorting out your music, organizing your music by individual cells, so it's a little bit easier to read. Everyone happy with that? Yeah, cool. We look at time signature. We see the number 4 with the denominator being 4. And the way that I break up a time signature is how many, which is the top one, how many, sort of like quantity, and then of what, which I kind of think of quality. So how many of what? So in this case, it's 4 of 4. And I touched on this on Monday, but the lower 4, the reason I say denominator is because we think of it as a quarter, and a quarter note is also known as a crotchet. So because it's a quarter of a half note, which is a minim, which is half of a whole note, which is also called a semibreve. So the basic kind of takeaway there is that 4/4 is also known as common time, also referred to as a simple time signature, as it's divisible by 2 and 4. And it is our most common sort of time signature that we'll find in most pop rock music. So to a bar, we'll find 4 beats or 4 crotchets. And I was looking at this last week as well. It seems to be the sort of song of the hour. So what I'm interested when I'm reading a song like this is, can I find the 4 beats? So, and if, shout out if this doesn't make too much sense, but this guy's a minim. These guys are semiquavers. The minim exists for 2 beats of the bar, and when we add a dot to that 2 beats, we add half of the original rhythm. So a minim already exists for 2. As soon as we have a dot here, we add half of that 2. So we're just plussing 1. So the dotted minim exists for 3 beats. The group of 4 semiquavers exists for 1 beat. Okay, so it's 1/16 of the bar. So when I'm reading a song like this, I want to be able to subdivide the pieces into even components based on the time signature. So I'll move on to some key signature stuff now. If I want to be able to analyze what key signature is, sort of a shorthand way of doing that is for sharp keys, is to get the very last sharp within the key signature and raise that by a semitone. So in this context, we've got an F sharp, we've got an F sharp, we've got a C sharp, and we've got a G sharp. Sorry, it's a bit delayed. So I get the G sharp, and I raise it by a semitone, which takes me to an A, which means that we're in A major. Everyone cool with that? All right. And just to, again, cover some fundamental stuff. Treble clef, bass clef. The treble clef creates a little crosshair with the G line, which is the second line. And the bass clef, the dots are above the F line. Okay, so from here, we can travel through the alphabet sequence of music, and as we move up the stave, the direction up, we go through the alphabet sequentially in order, and then as we're moving down, we're going to move backwards. So if I already know that this second last line is a G, I can move up and I've got an A, because that's the next one in the sequence. We move back to A, and then I can move up and I've got B, and then I've got C, and then I've got D and E. Yeah, is everyone all right with that? Yeah. And again, you know, quite a dated little acronym, but every good boy deserves fruit, and FACE for face. So there are shorthand ways of going, okay, how do I detect what's on the line, what's on the space? And then for the bass clef, good boys deserve fruit always, and all cows eat grass. So something that I can keep reminding you guys of, or you can create your own. It's just a way of detecting the note super quickly. Next thing that's important to note is where middle C is. Middle C is on the ledger line, and the ledger line is just that sort of floating line underneath the treble clef. And middle C on a piano is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 C's from the lowest C, you know, at the lowest point of the piano. So it's important for a reference, if you actually want to play the song, that you know how it correlates to the piano. In this context, middle C is sharpened because the key signature applies to all the C's, all the F's, and all the G's in the song. So in this case, that C is actually a C sharp. And then we can see the rest of the bar has some semi-breves. So it's nice just to analyze that so we can memorize. So we just familiarize ourselves with different note rhythms. So the first bar consists of some semi-breves, semiquavers, and a dotted minim. So when I'm breaking up a rhythm like this, when I'm breaking up the bar, I want to break it up to its smallest components internally when I'm counting through the bar. So I could simply go 1, 2, 3, 4, but at this point it's not the smallest components. Say for example there were quavers in the bar, I'd break it up to 8 components because the quaver is an 8th note and I need to divide it by its smallest component so that I can actually see where it lands on the beat. So I'd go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I've already broken up into 8 parts. And then if I wanted to break it up into smaller components by which this bar is a good example of, I break it up by 16. 16 individual components, in which case different ways to approach this. But probably the most common way is 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, which you can kind of write like this. But you can also get any word that breaks up into 4 components. So the word semiquaver is a great example. So if you're just unsure of how a group of semiquavers goes, semiquaver will get you your rhythm. Tipa, 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 tipa. So already I've got tipa, tipa, boom. So it goes 3, 4, semiquaver, ting, ting. So that's the first semiquaver. That's the first semiquaver group. It's nice, because like it's just 4 semiquavers played in sequence. So there's nothing too complicated. And then we look a little closer. We see these curved lines, which are referred to as ties, as opposed to slurs, which look very similar. In this context, we can tell that they're ties because they're joining to a note that is identical to the one that it begins at. Which is to say that the note that it continues on with, you don't re-articulate it. It rings or sounds for that length of time. So this C sharp will sound over the other two notes and continue on to sound for those 3 beats, whilst playing these 2 notes that also get tied. So instead of the rhythm being tika tika dum, wani yana 2, it's just wani yanda. And then that carries on through. We can look a little bit deeper, and we've got a appoggiatura or an accent. Sorry, appoggiatura is a grace note. Don't worry about that. Just an accent. We're just calling it an accent. Bida to come. Yeah, so we emphasize the 4th note in the 16ths. And then we look a little deeper. We've got mezzo forte, which is just our middle dynamic. So middle dynamic. So not too loud, not too soft. It's kind of like Goldilocks dynamic. Dynamics are all relative, so depending on what you set in the beginning will kind of constitute where you go. So it's nice when you can have lots of varied dynamics in pace. Cool. I think that's the first bar in a nutshell. Of course, then we can break up the chord. What you'll see in most pop music and most music notes pieces is there's a chord symbol at the top. The chords exist quite predominantly in Western tonal music, and it's a way to break up the song in its sort of simplest components. So even if you were playing through this and couldn't really read the notes, if you knew how to play an A major chord, you'd be pretty good. And just to relay that, the major chord is made up of 4 semitones and then 3 semitones from the first note. So A, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3. And then I've got my A major chord. So obviously I'm darting around right now, so you can yell out if you have any questions. A chord is made up of multiple notes. In theory, played simultaneously, but doesn't have to be. But the chord is the general grammar, harmonic grammar of the whole piece. So if I just played these 3 notes, you'd sort of be in the world of the song, hopefully, in some way. And then I can look at this F sharp minor 7. So a minor chord is 3 semitones, then 4 semitones from the starting note. So F sharp, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's my F sharp minor. Alternatively, you just find F sharp major and flatten the third. The third, when we're talking about chords, is the second note in the chord because it correlates with the third in the scale of that key. Okay, so it's 1, 3, 5. Sorry, it's a bit delayed. 1, 3, 5. Okay, because in F sharp major it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a major chord is made up of 1, 3, 5. A minor chord is made up of 1 flat 3, 5. A diminished chord is 1 flat 3 flat 5, and a augmented chord is 1 3 sharp 5. So 1 3 5, 1 flat 3 5, 1 flat 3 flat la la la. The reason we talk about those chords because they're the sort of fundamental harmonic basis of all chords: major, minor, diminished, augmented. So handwriting's terrible. So in this song, we just have a bunch of majors and minors. We don't have too many variants on that. We have some dominant chords, but we can get to a bit later. The reason why I'm just breaking up the F sharp minor business is because the 7's just adding sort of an extra color to it. We don't want to sort of, when we look at F sharp minor 7, we just have to first go, what's an F sharp minor? And then we'll work out the 7. So F sharp minor is either you know your 1, 3, and 5 of the F sharp major scale, or you work up 4 semitones, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. F sharp minor. two ways of looking at the minor 7, because it's kind of like it's a bit of a dovetail. It's F sharp minor, but it's also a minor 7. So that kind of informs the type of 7 that we're about to play. So you notice that 7 correlates to how I'm using the terms of 1, 3, and 5. So the 7 is of the scale that I'm playing in F sharp. So I'm going to pull the 7 from F sharp. With a bit of extra knowledge and practice of how to construct the major scale, we can work out what the 7 is. It just so happens that F sharp is a less common scale, so it can be a bit difficult to know. But tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone is the construction of the major scale. There's my 7. So that's a natural 7. Yeah? The 7 is a semitone away from the root note. The minor 7 is a flattened 7. So all I need to do is lower the natural 7 by a semitone. So what I'm going to do now is I've got my F sharp minor, and all I need to work out first is major 7, and then flatten it by semitone. And so there I've got the minor 7 chord, which is 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. Another way of looking at it is from the 5 note, go up 3 semitones, and you find the minor 7. So there's two different ways. You either know the key that you're working from, or you know the actual semitone construction. Cool. How are we doing? I'm just throwing lots of information at you. Yeah. So the beauty of you guys being here, you can sort of push me in any direction you want to go in. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking. So.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
When you talk about seventh like the chord, is it generally the default, like even if it says D7, that unless it says like D major 7, you're playing the minor 7th when you're
Correct.
reading chords? Okay,
yep. Cool. Good question. Yeah. So hopefully we'll see if we can find some 7s, but it has to specify major 7 in order for it to be the 7 that derives from the major scale.
Cool.
That's the biggest confusion point most people kind of stumble up, get confused with. So yeah. But in this case, F sharp minor 7, F sharp 7 will be the flattened 7. Yeah, great. So here, we kind of go, can I play the song? Say if for example, I want to play it at home and I don't really want to read it. Can I read the chords, I've worked out my A major. I've worked out my F sharp minor 7. This third bar is actually incorrect. I keep meaning to fix it, but it's just wrong. It's a music notes incorrection. The score is different. I think it goes back to A. So, and I'll just check because maybe the version's changed a little bit. Arrayed. No, just listen to me. What do you want? Not that version. This is the one. Yeah, so in the score, it goes back to an A major. But it's been taken through so many derivatives and things, so maybe it's just changed a little bit. But yeah, this is the score from Songs for a New World, which, let's just stay here for a second. Why not? It's much the same, but the bonus is you get a tempo marking. But you also get slightly rubato. Rubato is to rob the time a little bit. So when you rob the time, you have to give it back somewhere else. You can't just sort of keep robbing time. You can't keep stealing and pinching time away. So the idea of stealing time is that you're going to sort of trail through certain passages a little quicker, but you have to give it somewhere else. You got to kind of like pay it somewhere else, which means that you're going to slow down somewhere else. So if you want to really analyze it, it's only slightly rubato. It still has to have a bit of rhythm, okay, which is why it's only slightly rubato. But yeah, if you had to analyze that, I was sort of pushing a little bit through some phrases and then holding at the end of the bar, then pushing a little bit and then holding, you know. Which, you know, that can really inform the vocal phrasing as well. Da 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 dee da. Da 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 team da 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 tum. Da 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 da. Sa da dee da 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 da. That's quite rubato. And not only that, like the accompaniment is so free. You know, the only sort of ways, you just need to look at these rhythms on this bar. So what I'm interested in as an artist when you're analyzing music is like, what do my words line up with? So boom, so well, but still. You know, you can see that the chord is first. Boom, so well, but still. So for example, if you chord so well, but still, if you sort of guide the accompanist through that phrase a little slower, then the chord will actually land a little slower. So, which is the beautiful thing about rubato is that it's a sort of an interplay between the singer and the accompanist. So you have a lot of room to play with. It doesn't have to. You're not at the mercy of like this sort of constant metronome tick that says that you have to be bang on in time. So. Of course, then we have this beautiful chord that plays in the rest. Jenny's afraid of water. I mean, she swims. I mean, she swims. So you go. I mean, she's afraid of water. And then, of course, you have this response in the piano. Just get the annotations off. So the rhythm is actually quite strong in the vocal, yeah. So if I was to break up a rhythm like this, I'd look for all the 16th groups because that would tell me where the strong beats are. This guy's a bit tricky. Sorry, I'll remove that. It's a bit tricky because that's actually a quaver. That's a semi-quaver rest, and that's a semi-quaver. So one quaver equals 2 semi-quavers, and this is actually just one beat. Okay, but we just used the beam. We connected the beam just to make it a little clearer and cleaner, rather than there's a whole like thing against using too many flags off the note. People think it's a bit messy, so you just join them up. But yeah, so we call it the beam when we join it up, but individually the notes actually look like this. So we just join that up. We go boom, we go boom, and we get rid of all the sort of squiggly bits. So we can see where the notes are grouped. So already I've got beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4. And then my way of looking at it is, can I divide all of these by 16? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then can I go, well, the quavers are worth 2 16ths, so I can join that. And then she swims is going to worth another 16. And then obviously, for the rest of the bar, I've got a much more eloquent way of showing this, but I'm just show you really quickly. Afraid is tied over. So it's actually going to exist, over the beat. So then I've got 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 1 E and E sorry. Do 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 do. 1 E and 2 E and 1 E and E and. So 1 E and E and. Jenny's afraid of water. Jenny's afraid of water. Most people go, Jenny's afraid of water. What? Water. Jenny's afraid of water. So then the water is going on beat 3. But actually, when we look a little deeper, the water is anticipated. 1 E and E and Jenny's afraid of water. Jenny's afraid of water. So yeah. Everyone's scared of anticipating and syncopating. It's just sort of a thing. And then we want to pop it on the beat. And then not to mention a song like this is quite rubato-ish and then quite pseudo-emotional at the beginnings, and then everything gets a bit like so if I break this up, I go 1 E and 2 E and 1 E and 2 E and 1 E and E and One yanda, yanda, ti. Then I got to replace the words. Jenny's afraid of water. I mean, she swims. I mean, she swims. Yeah, I'm even getting it wrong because I'm basing it off soundtracks, you know? But when I look at the music here, I mean, she swims. Not, I mean, she swims. I mean, she swims. So then we can look a bit deeper, right? So I guess what I'm interested in mostly is, can you break down the bar by those individual components, and then could you line up the syllables with those individual components? More importantly, can you see what's on the beat and what's off the beat? Jenny's afraid of water. Boom. Of water, 3. Of water, beat. So rather than thinking that of water is of beat 2, of water is just an anticipation of beat 3. So when you're counting it out, you don't have to get too sort of hung up about it. You just make sure your water is before 3. Jenny's afraid of water. Of water. Of water. I mean, she swims. I mean, she swims. I mean, she swims, you know? So then we think about the phrase, right? I mean, she swims, da-da-da-dee, but she da-da-da-da, you know? I mean, this happens, but actually, la-la-la-la-la. So we can start to understand the intention of the phrase by analyzing the rhythm, or at least the intention that the composer is intending. Jenny's afraid of water. Jenny's afraid of water. It's kind of like it's not the point that she's afraid of. The thing that she's afraid of is not really the point, otherwise it'd be a bit more on the beat. Jenny's afraid of water. I mean, she swims so well, but still. Yeah? I mean, she swims so well, but still. So again, we get an accent on the word still. We get these anticipated off the beats. She swims so well, but still. And something that we have to be cautious of is that we don't stop the word when we're anticipating. She swims so well, but still. You know, quite often a lot of people will go, she swims so well, but deep. We sort of chop off the word. We need to keep carrying the word and the line over the beat, because as a vocalist or as a singer, as someone who can create sound and breath over the beat, we want to hear that. The piano can't do that. So it's actually quite a nice way of emoting over the beat. I mean, she swims so well, but still. So again, we get informed, okay, but still, there's some sort of emphasis on that word. Then so well, but still, she's afraid of water. She's afraid of water. That's tricky. Tika tum, tika tum. Tika tum, tika pum. Because, again, the second syllable of water is on the second 16th of beat 1. Just realized I've been talking on the first page for like the past 30 minutes. I was like, I should do something a bit more interesting. Do you have any questions so far?
My question will be a bit of a sidetrack.
Yep.
But I just wanted to ask about, because I kind of understand like when the chords have 6, 9, and like the way you find that in the scale, like with the G 6, 9, if that's the way you say it.
Oh, this guy here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
but then I noticed like in the bar 6, are they even playing the 9th in it?
No.
Cool.
Yeah, good. Very observational. That's great. I don't think that's a real 6/9.
Right. Okay.
So,
obviously, yeah, it's like JRB and he's just playing with us all, but yeah.
Look, it could also be a copying error, you know, they just sort of popped the chord in, but didn't really look at the detail of the chord. They just went copy and paste. That happens a lot.
That's...
You know, but then we can look back at, you know, same thing here. In fact, there's no chord symbols either. But yeah, here we've got 6, the 9, the 5, and the 6 doubled. So good to always keep the 5. Good to keep the 3 and the 5 in the chord, but if you want to make the chord a bit more interesting, get rid of the 3, and then the tonality is kind of ambiguous, just a bit more interesting when the tonality is a bit ambiguous. Generally speaking, a voicing for a 6/9 chord is just this: 6, 9, and 5. Now we haven't touched on voicings, but it's the shape of a chord when you see the symbol that you can play without playing every single note that is in a G6/9, because sometimes we don't want to do that. We just want to imply the 6/9. But in jazz, that's very, very common to have that shape, which is a chordal voicing, chordal coming from 4. Those intervals are all a fourth apart. So again, when we build a chord in fourths, we again make the harmony or the tonality a little bit more ambiguous, just due to the shape of the chord. And of course, you're right. In this context, they're actually playing the 3. But you want to break it down though. The E is sort of still here's A. It's still sort of hidden there. Did you have any other chord questions?
No. Yeah, I guess that's because that's how I play piano now, is I'll just sit down and kind of look at the chords and work through it. And yes, I'm always interested in like how voicings work, or like if I hear a melody, how I can find the chords for the melody and voicings. Yeah, I just find them all really interesting, and like the priorities when you are playing a chord.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the priorities can be broken down into like, there's actually kind of like more of a physics reason as to like why you can get rid of certain notes, because they're already kind of hidden in other notes anyway. So we start to pull notes away and then get the implication. And then of course the general rule, not always, we don't always want to play the voicing with the melody note in there, which is a great example here. To be honest though, that G chord is just a passing chord anyway. So I wouldn't even change the quality of the chord just because it's got an F sharp in there. It's more of an attitude than a sort of a milestone sequence in the chord progression. It's sort of a mood. And then that's a beautiful 5 chord. So if you can break that up, that's a D over E basically. Nothing too special. D over E. In the context of the key, it's 4 over 5. So D is the 4 and E is the 5. And that's a beautiful shape for a dominant chord. That's not like she's afraid of that's a bit elementary. That's more interesting. It's a bit more soul, which is JRB in a nutshell. This guy's wrong. That's not a D13. It's not. Firstly, it's not a dominant chord. If you see a 13, it implies that it's a dominant chord. It implies that there's a 7 in there. Just as when you see an 11 or a 9, there's an implication that there's a 7. It's not a 7. That's the 7. And that's just not what, that's incorrect. What do we got? We got sharp 4. Sharp 4, 5, 9. And then we've got the 6. So it's just a sort of another take on that G chord, but kind of a bit different. But it's a quintessential kind of magic musical theatre, sharp 4 business. Definitely not a 13. Not a 13. And then we've got this classic kind of gospel. It's a very classic gospel harmony, using the 1, the flat 7, and then the 4. Very cool. And we pedal on the A, which is to say that we don't move the lower bass note. That's what we call pedaling, when the idea is just constant underneath. And, in a way, it's a form of a dominant, but not really. It's giving us the illusion that there's some sort of pause or a hold. Yeah. All right, friends, just aware of the time. Does that sound all right?
Awesome. Yeah.
Thanks for joining today.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Lovely to see you both.
Yeah.
I will stop streaming.